This is Clint Barton, otherwise known as Hawkeye, and many people know him as one of the original members of the Avengers, a team formed of Earth's mightiest heroes, but even then, Hawkeye oftentimes goes undervalued. What a lot of people don't know though is that this is about to change, because it turns out that Nick Fury needed Hawkeye for a huge mission. Clint Barton was going to have to help take down some of the deadliest forces in the universe, and he was going to be a key part of the only team in the world that had any chance of stopping them. So today I am putting Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, into College Football 26. Let's see what kind of role he might play in this upcoming mission as we follow him on his road to glory. Now, Clint had talked to Nick Fury about potentially playing quarterback since that is what he did in high school, but Nick told him that they already had multiple quarterbacks on the roster, and that a position that they do actually need though is a kicker. But not just no regular kicker, man, they need somebody who's going to be consistent and reliable all the time. And early on here in the Shield program, in a game against the Gotham Knights, Clint would actually get put to the test as he's attempting a 59-yard field goal. And with this game tied at 21, this could be a huge play with the potential of this field goal taking the lead. And Clint Barton sneaks it in for his first field goal here in the program. He's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable playing at his new position. And you know what, y'all? He don't think that he's ever gonna miss. The Gotham Knights would end up winning this game though, as they go on to beat the Avengers by 4 points. Regardless, Clint still feels pretty good about his performance, and he's looking to play even better heading into his next game. He would get another opportunity to kick another 50-plus yard field goal. And the way Clint was feeling, it turns out that he was hitting these with ease. This man could have probably hit this one from 70. But even then, that's not the only way that Clint has found a way to make a big impact for this team. Because on kickoff, he does a great job kicking this ball high up in the air, allowing his team more time to get downfield and say shablock. He was not only accurate, but he had one of the best legs in the country. And it was partially because of that the Avengers would go on to win this game. Clint Barton did not go on to miss a single extra point or field goal, which is probably why he started to get recruited by a lot of teams throughout the country. But now heading into the final game of the Shield program, he still has a chance to impress some scouts, which he definitely did after he allowed his teammates to make a great play, forcing a fumble that was picked up by Shield and taken to the crib for a touchdown. Clint Barton just knew exactly where to kick it. I mean, this is something that people haven't seen done before so consistently, and it would not stop there, because Hawkeye was in another game where he was out here kicking a 59-yard field goal, and with absolute ease, he was drilling that thing right down the middle to do more than enough to put this game away. The Avengers are able to finish another session of their developmental program, and one of the players who shined the most was Clint Barton, as he had a ton of offers all throughout the country and was recognized as potentially the best kicker in all of college football already. And soon, it would be time for Clint to figure out what college he wanted to go to. He wanted to go somewhere that would give him an opportunity to play quarterback as well, and his top 3 choices were Kentucky, Oregon, and Notre Dame. Ultimately, there was only one school that had guaranteed him at least some reps at QB. So when it came to Hawkeye's college decision, he would end up deciding to sign with the Kentucky Wildcats. And now that Clint Barton is here with Kentucky, let's get a couple things straight here, man. Because although Clint is listed at a quarterback, he is not a 99. That boy is a 62. He is, though, a 99 overall kicker. And Clint would go on to prove it pretty early on here at practice. They heard about how strong of a leg he had at the Shield program, so they want to see exactly what he can do. They had him kicking a 92-yard field goal, which he had just barely missed. So it was actually pretty clear that they had a secret weapon on their hand, because all they had to do was just move up 10 yards before Clint would go on to drill this 82-yard field goal. Oh yeah, this team was ready to head into the first game of the season. The Kentucky Wildcats have something that no other team in the country has, and they're ready to see exactly what he can do as they match up against FCS Midwest. Now, like I said before, Clint has the ability to impact a game even without kicking a field goal, because on a play where the Wildcats were backed up on their own 22-yard line, Clint Barton would come up with an incredible punt. He had this ball rolling to the 10-yard line where it was picked up and downed at the 6, giving his opponents horrible field position, which is probably why they did not score all throughout this first half. Eventually, though, this Kentucky offense would end up getting stopped around the 50-yard line, setting Hawkeye up for a 65-yard field goal. This would beat the Kentucky record by 10 yards set by Alex Rayner in 2024. Clint's coaches really believe that he can get it done, though. So they let him go out there and kick this ball, where he is nailing this one right down the middle, setting the all-time record for longest field goal in Kentucky history. Clint Barton was a serious weapon, and he would continue to prove it in the same quarter as he came out here and kicked another 60-yard field goal, and he has now broken that record twice in one game. He ended up kicking another short one off to the side right before half, and in the third quarter he would attempt another 60-yard field goal where he would barely sneak it in to stay perfect on the day. And would you guys believe me if I told you that Clint actually went on to score all of Kentucky's points throughout this game, as they would end up winning 18-0, with every single point coming from a Clint Barton field goal. This dude was incredible, and it's crazy to think that he really just did not miss. Later on in the week though, he would actually get a text from Nick Fury giving him some words of encouragement, even though I don't feel like he really needed it. Clint was now extremely confident that he could become one of the greatest kickers of all time, and he was going to continue to strive towards that as he was heading into his next game at home against Arizona State. Now, Arizona State saw what Hawkeye had done in the previous game, and they did not want to deal with that. So that's why here in the second quarter, when the opportunity came, they were smacking his leg, and they were trying to cause an injury, but all that really did was just make Clint mad. They ended up taking the penalty that allows Kentucky to get downfield and get in the field goal range, where Clint would nail this one for 3 to put the team up by 7. And once again, later on in the game with it tied at 10, Clint Barton was the one coming up clutch, not only making a field goal to put his team up by 3, but he would actually have a chance to put his team up by 6 if he can hit this 67-yard field goal with 12-mile-per-hour winds. And Clint Barton was staying perfect on the season. And later on in the game, with less than a minute left, they had a chance to just run this clock out, but they decided to allow Clint to put up another 3 points that not only puts this team up by 3 possessions, but officially puts this game away. Kentucky goes on to get the job done 19-10 thanks to another incredible performance from Clint Barton. He made some extremely tough kicks in this game, but he actually feels like he can make some even better ones. Now, there is actually a fallacy out there that Hawkeye just never misses, which is mostly true. But just like anyone else, Clint Barton does practice a lot, and oftentimes he does miss in his pursuit of perfection. But it was because of his confidence that allowed him to attempt things like a 100-yard field goal. This would be the longest field goal in recorded human history. He is kicking from his own 15-yard line, and it looks like he might have nailed that kick. This man, Clint Barton, could damn near hit from anywhere. This is outstanding, and the coaches are elated to find this out, because on top of the fact that this dude potentially had the greatest leg in human history, they would see that Clint was actually extremely athletic when they were running some punt fakes. So going into next week, they actually decided to move Clint up to the second string quarterback. They felt comfortable putting him in if they might need him heading into the first game on the road. They're about to start facing off against some SEC opponents, and they're hoping that they can get the job done in their next matchup against South Carolina. Now, early on in this game, Clint Barton was doing an excellent job. He was making all of his kicks, and even on kickoff, he was pinning his ball in the exact right spot, allowing his team a chance to force some bad field position for the Gamecocks. He actually did this multiple times throughout the night, and at the top of the second quarter, it would really pay off, as one of the Wildcats had smacked the ball carrier, forcing a fumble that was recovered by Kentucky. And at this point, it seemed like the momentum had just completely shifted towards Kentucky's side. They would have a 28-7 point lead with only a few seconds left in the half, but they trusted that Clint could come out here and potentially make a 76-yard field goal. This would be the longest field goal in NCAA history. But with all the confidence in the world, Clint feels like he got what it takes, and he drills it. Clint Barton smacks this field goal, and almost he can't even believe it. He's doing this at one of the highest levels in all of football. This was already amazing, and his great game would not stop there, because he would come out here on a 4th down and 1 to attempt his first pass of the season, and it not only ends up complete, but it goes for a first down, allowing his team to be up 34-7 by the 4th quarter, where Hawkeye goes on to hit another 44-yard field goal to put this game completely out of reach. Kentucky goes on to dominate this one 37-7. And after a game where Clint had played incredible, it was no surprise that he was getting a lot of attention from the media, particularly with the whole hitting a 76-yard field goal thing. Clint Barton was the truth, and it was clear as day to the entire country that Kentucky might have one of the greatest weapons, regardless of position, in all of college football. Clint Barton had begun to become the main reason why his team was winning. He came out here in his next game and broke his own record by hitting a 78-yarder, and then in the exact same quarter, he hit a 75-yarder. He just simply could not miss. And that's exactly what Kentucky needed from him when they only had 28 yards of offense throughout the first half. It was because of Clint that this team would go on to win 12-5, having a game where he went 4 for 4, and on the season, he is actually now 17 for 17. He literally has not missed a kick, and it would not change heading into the next week, as in the second quarter here, he is hitting a 78-yard field goal, tying his own record that he just set last week. And I think it's pretty safe to say that if he can hit that, he could definitely hit all these other kicks that Kentucky was forced to settle for throughout the game. Because by the end of the 4th quarter, when this offense had stalled out again, they needed one more kick from 74 yards to put this game away. The only question is, will Clint be able to stay perfect on the season? And he easily does to not only put his team up by 2 possessions, but he helps put another game out of reach. Kentucky is now sitting at 5-0 on the season, taking down another SEC opponent thanks to another 5-for-5 game from Clint Barton. He has been incredible so far this season, and he's hoping that this team can keep things rolling as they head into their next game of the year, which was easily going to be their toughest matchup of the season since they were facing off against the 5th-ranked team in the nation. Regardless though, Kentucky was going to do everything they could to stay undefeated as they were set to face off against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now we start this game off with a 72-yard field goal attempt that Clint Barton nails right down the middle. He's got his team with a quick lead before Alabama goes up by 10-3 in the second quarter. And as much as Clint Barton has absolutely no problem hitting these field goals and putting some points on the board for his team, he knows that Kentucky cannot just keep kicking field goals while Alabama scores touchdowns, because that could definitely be a recipe to put this game out of reach, but Hawkeye is keeping them in it with a 71-yard field goal. Clint Barton feels like he still has a chance to help his team win this game. But in the second half, with Alabama's offense just doing too much and Kentucky's not doing enough, this would unfortunately result in the Wildcats' first loss of the season. They fall to Alabama 37-12 despite the fact that Clint hit all of his field goals again. And it was actually at this point where Clint realized that his offense was probably not good enough to win a national championship. So he was definitely worried about that moving forward throughout the season because he really did want to win some games. It was just extremely tough knowing that although Clint could hit these 70-plus yard field goals, he didn't understand why he always had to. His offense literally could not get it past the 50-yard line on most drives, meaning that Clint was either going to have to come out here and hit a field goal or run a fake punt. And every time he would come up with the completion to keep the drive moving, he would still end up having to settle for a field goal, which just results in another 3 points. Now eventually Kentucky would be in a position where they had to trust Clint to hit an 86-yard field goal. Another record for the longest kick in NCAA history, and this man's meter is shaking. I don't know if Clint's gonna be able to stay perfect on the season after this one, but oh my wow. This man Clint Barton is different. There will likely never again be somebody who is doing what he's doing. And it's because of him that Kentucky had a chance to later on take this lead back and eventually had done enough to finally put this game away. Kentucky closes this game out 22-17, and despite the fact that their quarterback has been playing garbage over the past few games, they're still feeling pretty good moving forward throughout the rest of the season, especially considering the fact that they have a weapon that has literally not missed all year. Clint Barton has hit more field goals than a lot of players have hit extra points, but on the other side of that, Clint Barton has also only been able to attempt 6 extra points on the season. That is honestly disgusting, and if it wasn't for the fact that Kentucky was sitting at 6-1, then this entire coaching staff would probably be fired. Because in their next game, they were in a situation where Clint was out there hitting multiple field goals again throughout this game. And after hitting another one that gave his team the lead with less than 2 minutes left, he thought that he had officially put this game away. But this one would end up heading into overtime, where Oklahoma only had a 3-point lead, and you know what? The coaches at this point decided to trust Clint Barton at QB. They didn't feel like he could do any worse than what the starting quarterback was doing already, and they were not wrong. Clint Barton makes a throw that puts his team down inside the 5-yard line, setting up the very next play where Clint had the opportunity to roll out to his left, and he was getting into the end zone for his first touchdown of the season. Clint Barton finally gets to play quarterback, and he does not disappoint his team as he helps them win this game. They take down the Sooners 30-27, and after a game where Clint had played incredible in multiple facets, it's completely understandable that there is now a quarterback controversy in Kentucky. As it turns out, the coaches are looking to experiment with Clint a little bit more at QB, heading into their next game of the season against Arkansas. Now, besides the game against Alabama, this was easily one of the biggest games of the year for Kentucky. This game had the potential to decide who gets into the SEC championship, and unfortunately, although Hawkeye was hitting his kicks, it did not look good for Kentucky later on. They would find themselves down 20-13 in this game before the coaches decided to put Clint in the game and have him take over at quarterback. They believed that he had a chance to lead this team to victory, and he was rewarding their faith in him as he continued to make the right read on his drive to bring his team inside goal-to-goal territory, bringing us to a first down with less than a minute left where Clint Barton would take a hit, but still deliver a dime that goes for a touchdown. Clint Barton comes up with a play to bring his team back in this game and send this one to overtime. On a 4th down, Hawkeye continued to play well, scoring his second TD of the day. In this game specifically, Clint Barton is absolutely the heart and soul of this team. He is making an impact in pretty much every single way except for defense, which it didn't really seem like they needed help with after Kentucky holds Arkansas to 3 points. And now Clint knows that all he needs is a touchdown to win this game, and it's looking like he might get it on this play, but he is stopped inside the 5-yard line. Clint Barton has completely taken over this offense, and after getting to a 2nd and goal, he would rush up the middle for another game-winning touchdown. In back-to-back week, Clint Barton scrambles into the end zone on the final play to give his team the victory. Kentucky is now sitting at 8-1 on the season thanks to a huge game from Clint Barton. This man went 5 for 5 passing in 2 touchdowns, while also rushing for 24 yards in another touchdown, and on top of that, he hit 2 field goals and hit all of his extra points. He was literally responsible for every single point in this game, and many people were actually considering this to be one of the greatest performances in all of college football history. It was clear at this point that Clint Barton was simply just an absolute machine. He had literally not missed a single pass, a single kick all throughout the season, even when he was making an attempt from 60+ yards. And it was mostly because of him that Kentucky would just continue to win games as he led them down the stretch towards the end of the regular season. They would actually end up heading into a matchup at home against the top 25 ranked Notre Dame, where in this one, this offense was once again not producing a whole lot of points. And by the end of the 2nd quarter, most of the points that they did have was coming from their kicker. Which actually brings us here to the 3rd quarter, where on their own 25, instead of just punting the ball away, the coaches truly thought that Clinton would be able to hit this 92-yard field goal. So they sent him out there to make the attempt to potentially put his team up by 2 possessions, and Clint Barton was once again breaking his own record. This dude was phenomenal. And it's honestly too bad that Notre Dame would go on to take the lead by the 4th quarter, because it seemed like he was about to have another great performance wasted. This offense though was doing its best to get downfield and potentially get the lead back until the quarterback got hit. Oh no, that looks bad, man. So they now gotta put Clint in the game. His 3rd straight week of the season where he is playing at quarterback, and his first pass had fallen incomplete. This is the first miss of the entire season in any capacity for Clint Barton. But you know what, y'all? That did not stop him from staying locked in and finding a man underneath who was able to get the first down. He got this team all the way down to the 1-yard line, where on the very next play, Clint would find that same receiver for a touchdown. Clint Barton had taken over at quarterback and got his team the lead with less than a minute left in this game. And after he goes out there and kicks the extra point after his own touchdown, Hawkeye had done enough to put this game away. Kentucky moves to 10-1 on the year thanks to another clutch performance from Clint Barton. Unfortunately though, he was still not getting any respect as player of the game. But everybody knew that if it wasn't for Clint Barton, then this team would have 100% lost. He was now considered to be the most accurate man in America. And I don't know about y'all, but I think that's pretty fair to say, especially considering how he played going into his last game of the regular season, where he not only came out here and drilled another 76-yard field goal, but with 1 second left in the half, the coaches trusted him to go out there and kick another 90-yarder, but it looks like he's going to go ahead and miss his first one of the season before this banks in, and Hawkeye stays perfect on the year. Plays like this were the main reason why he was not the full-time starting quarterback, because they do not want to risk injuring his leg. Clint was a weapon of the likes that nobody had ever seen before, and it was because of him that Kentucky was finishing the season 11-1 as they take down Louisville in the final game of the year. And after a regular season where Clint Barton went on to kick 46 for 46, with 27 of his field goals being from longer than 50 yards, he was undoubtedly the best player at his position, and it wasn't even close. He had an immaculate season as he led his team to the college football playoffs, but unfortunately with the SEC being competitive this year, they would not have a chance to compete in the conference championship. And that definitely does suck, but at the very least, Clint Barton felt like he was earning some respect as he won the Groza Award. He was officially the greatest college football kicker of all time, and everybody knew it. But even with Clint being the weapon that he was, there was pretty much nobody who believed in Kentucky as a team. They had one of the worst offenses in the nation and was continuously bailed out by their kicker. So the Wildcats were definitely the underdogs heading into the first round of the playoffs, where they were now going to try and keep their season alive as they were set to face off against the USC Trojans. Now we start this game off with Kentucky getting stopped at their own 27-yard line before Clint comes out here and nails a 90-yard field goal. This is exactly why Clint is such an incredible weapon for pretty much any team, because he can score points from almost anywhere on the field. He came out here later on in the first quarter to nail a 70-yard field goal, before then coming to the second quarter where he had to keep his team in the game by hitting a 59-yard field goal. Clint was doing everything he could to keep his team in this game, and by the fourth quarter, the Wildcats would find themselves down by 5 points. And at this point, they decided that with the season on the line, they were going to put Clint back in at QB. They trusted that he'll be able to make some plays for the team, and he definitely was. He got his team to a 1st down and 10 at the 11-yard line where he ran his read option, and he had a ton of space to the outside to get to the end zone to take the lead for his team. Clint Barton was once again coming up clutch for the Wildcats, and it did not stop there as he got the 2-point conversion as well. It looked like the Wildcats might be able to lock in and close this game out, but USC gets downfield, scores a touchdown to take the lead. But luckily though for Kentucky, it seems like Clint Barton has complete control of this offense. He is helping his team get all the way down into scoring range, which brings us to a 1st down and 10, where Clint had decided to take another read option before breaking off a tackle. And now he has a ton of space ahead of him as he jumps over a guy for a 1st down. Clint Barton was making some incredible plays when this team needed him most. They got to a 1st down and goal where USC was only rushing 3, so Clint would have a ton of time to potentially make a play before finding a guy in the end zone for a touchdown. Hawkeye would once again get his team the lead back in this game, but the defense let him down as they allow USC to score a field goal to send this game into overtime. They would eventually get to a 2nd down and goal where Clint Barton had found a man out to the left who scored another touchdown. And this was obviously great because they had a chance to head to 2nd OT, but Hawkeye actually had some different plans. He told the coaches that they're about to win this game right here, right now. So on his 2-point conversion, man, Clint Barton had snapped his ball before rolling out to his right, and he had some room to get around the edge before getting into the end zone for the 2-point conversion. And just like that, he makes a play that sends Kentucky to the next round of the playoffs. Clint Barton had absolutely clutched up for his team, helping the Wildcats take down the Trojans by 1 point, and it was mostly thanks to another game where Clint went 5 for 5 on his passes, going for 2 touchdowns through the air while also going for another touchdown on the ground in 44 yards. On top of that, we cannot forget to mention that he went 4 for 4 on field goals, with one of them being for 90 yards. He had proven multiple times over that he is more than ready to play for this Avengers team. And at this point, he's just going to do everything he can to help his team make a deep run and potentially make it to the national championship. And as much as he wants to come out here and be the starting quarterback, he understands why his coaches don't want him out there all the time. So he's just going to continue to try his best to play his role and hopefully help his team take down their next opponent, the Texas Longhorns. Now with Kentucky facing off against the #1 team in the country, Clint does not expect that his offense is going to play well throughout this game. So he knew that it was extra important for him to hit every single field goal no matter where it was on the field. He was willing to do whatever it was that his offense needed him to do, and on this 4th down and 3, they needed him to fake it, where it actually took him a second to see that he had a wide open receiver downfield who came up with the catch. This receiver is snagging his ball out the air before getting to the end zone for a touchdown. Kentucky scores to take the lead on a 4th down and 3 fake punt. Clint Barton somehow comes up with an incredible play to give his team all the momentum. Unfortunately though, that did not last long, because after Texas scored, they would kick the ball off and force a fumble that was recovered by the Longhorns, resulting in them scoring another touchdown before half before they force another turnover, and the Longhorns are all of a sudden up by 2 possessions at halftime. Clint could not believe that his quarterback was now 4 for 16 with 2 interceptions on the day. And it turns out neither could the coaches, man, and that's exactly why by the 4th quarter, they would decide to put Clint back in at QB on a 4th down and 7. And they're expecting that this man will be able to help them get back in this game. But on this 4th down, with there being absolutely no receivers open, Clint would end up running out of places to go before he was sacked, and Texas would continue to pile on their lead. On the very next drive, though, on a 3rd down and 2, Clint would find a way to extend this play before finding a man across the middle. And this receiver had the room and the speed to get upfield to the end zone for a touchdown. It looks like Kentucky might have a chance to get back in this game, but Texas just continued to extend their lead. And despite the fact that in this 4th quarter, Clint had absolutely gave it his all by scoring his 3rd touchdown of the day, it was just too little too late, as this game was out of reach, and unfortunately this would officially put an end to Clint Barton's freshman season. Kentucky would go on to lose to Texas 38-27, and this was definitely a performance where Clint did everything he could to try and keep his team in this one, but unfortunately he just did not get enough help. Regardless though, Hawkeye feels great about how he played throughout the season, particularly as a kicker, as he went 52 for 52 on field goals. I mean, just straight up, he did not miss at all throughout the year, and it was because of that that Nick Fury knew that he was definitely ready to join the team. He just needed to wait a little bit longer, as Nick was actually recruiting some defensive players, and he had his eyes set on a guy named Wade Wilson. So at this point, Clint decided he's going to go ahead and play somewhere else as he waits for the big mission, and he has a lot of teams to choose from, so he definitely has a big decision to make. But I'll leave that decision up to you guys. If you want to see a part 2 of Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, be sure to get this video to 1,000 likes and subscribe to the channel down below. Also, be sure to comment down below who else you guys want to see next, and YouTube thinks you'll like one of these other stories until the next one comes out. If you got to this point in the video, just know that I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and other than that, I'm gonna catch you guys next time.